years, the village of Elmore, Ohio, has put out a traditional faith-based nativity scene for the holidays. Town councilmen we spoke to don't know who outed them, but somebody told the proudly atheist Freedom from Religion Foundation about this little nativity scene. And the next thing the town knew, it was threatened with a lawsuit. The foundation said placing a nativity scene in a public park violated separation of church and state. Now, rather than fight it in court because the village said they couldn't afford it, they moved the scene to a private yard across from the park. So does the nativity scene amount to a government endorsement of religion, or is it a community tradition that's more secular than religious? Let's talk about it. It's night court time. Attorney Lisa Garber is here to make the case for the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Attorney David Bruno wants to keep that nativity scene in the park. Great to see you both tonight.
Hello. Great to be here.
Okay, so the town has decided they couldn't afford this lawsuit, so they said we're just going to move it across the street. Apparently someone there says, fine with me. I think it's a retired mayor of the town. He says you can put it up here. Lisa, why would it be a problem on government property?
It's a problem because it violates the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. You cannot have the government trying to advance, promote, or endorse any religion, and by nature, a nativity scene, the birth of Christ, is extremely religious.
Well, David, you know the Supreme Court has recognized that there are circumstances in which nativity scenes are just part of a holiday display, and that localities can, in many circumstances, have them up without too much trouble.
Right, and that's the principle that I'm going to rely on, because I think they wanted to avoid litigation, and that's why they moved it, but they didn't have to. They could keep what they have there, but they need to bring in other things, snowmen and Christmas trees and Santa Claus and things like that. And if they would have done that, then they would have been able to pass the constitutional muster pursuant to our U.S. Supreme Court cases, and they would not have to have litigated or spend all the money on the attorneys.
All right, so Lisa, if they bring in some Santa Claus and some Christmas trees, which they said is apparently going to be their plan next year, will that take care of the issue for groups like the atheist group that's threatened them?
Not necessarily. What David's referencing is what sometimes is lovingly referred to as the reindeer clause, meaning if you bring in some plastic Santas and Mrs. Clauses, you can make it secular. It's not going to be a religious issue. But the problem here is we don't know if there is any sort of religious signage on there. Supreme Court precedent is really split, and these cases are extremely factually dependent. You really have to argue the context. You look at the reasonable person standard. Is somebody looking at this nativity display going to say, wow, they're really promoting Christianity? And that's the problem. You really want to get everybody involved, make it secular. You can definitely have the Christmas spirit there, but you need to be inclusive, and that's really what we're seeing. I agree. If you add some plastic Santas and reindeers and potentially a menorah, you make it more Christmas tradition, holiday tradition, that would be helpful. Well, and I agree, the litigation is expensive. I understand why they would want to try to avoid it.
Yeah, of course. Now, David, a lot of people out there, they roll their eyes. I will get a ton of Twitter and Facebook feedback about this segment because people get angry about this. Like, hello, Christmas is about the birth of Christ. And so if you're going to say this is a holiday season, a Christmas season, I mean, I once lived in a place where the homeowners association told us we had to take down wreaths because wreaths were considered religious symbols because they denoted Christmas. I mean, a lot of folks out there just only have so much tolerance for the fight on Christmas.
And this is what we're going to hear in the blogs, no question about it. But unfortunately, that is not a defense for the First Amendment. And yes, there is the Establishment Clause. And it is crystal clear that a public facility or property cannot advertise and promote a religion. So it has to be compliant, and now they had the attention from this atheist group. Now that they need to do it the right way. And it can be done, no question about that.
All right, David and Lisa are legal eagles for tonight. The counselors have made their cases, so let us know on Twitter at Shannon Bream or at Fox News Night what you think and how you would rule in the case. In the meantime, have a great weekend. Thank you both.
Thank you so much. Happy holidays.
You too. And